Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Nordic Gods Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for August 2021. I've been wanting to update the Nordics for a while now, and I've done individual deck profiles for all three of the different Nordic gods, Odin, Loki, and Thor, but I figured with this deck profile I'd focus on one that can summon out all three and utilize all the different Nordic monsters that each individual deck runs for some pretty easy consistency with the Link monster that these cards got a while back in the Hero Special Duelist deck box. But as always, happy with the results of this deck. It definitely has a lot of fun, and the key I would say to the Nordic deck is just to run a bunch of different Nordic monsters for consistency for the actual Link monster itself, and protection for your actual Nordic god monsters. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the actual main deck monsters, we'll go ahead and start off with the Nordic Ascendants. Our main one is Vanadis of the Nordic Ascendant. For a Synchro Summon, you can substitute this card for any Nordic Tuner monster. If this card is used as a Synchro material, all other Synchro materials must be Nordic monsters. And once per turn, you can send one Nordic monster from your deck to the graveyard. This card's level becomes the level of that monster until the end of this turn. So it's your go-to fairy for the majority of the different Nordic Synchros you can do, which are Odin, Thor, and Loki. So being able to have this tuner be used for any of the different ones and being a level 4 tuner, but also being able to adjust the level of the tuner while also set up monsters in your graveyard is a big plus there all on its own, because you can adjust the level depending on the other Nordic monsters you have on the field and go for any of your main 3 boss monsters from the extra deck to the field. I really do like that this deck isn't limited with, Master Rule 4 anymore. Being able to summon out all of the different Nordic gods without any real risk is a big plus there for sure. And the fact that they come back from the graveyard makes it all the easier. For the other Nordic Ascendant monsters, I also run 2 Valkyrie of the Nordic Ascendant. With this card, when it's normal summon, if your opponent controls a monster and you control no other cards, you can banish 2 Nordic monsters from your hand to special summon 2 Enherjar tokens. I probably butchered that name, so I apologize there. Onto the field, both being level 4. And with this, it's your go-to card for setting up Odin that much more quickly. Being a Nordic Ascendant tuner, which is the requirement for summoning out Odin, Father of the Aesir, just being able to get rid of 2 other Nordic cards that are monsters and then get those tokens. It's a 1-card combo for getting out your Nordic god. I would say Vanadis is more for the setup of any of them, but you can easily rely on Valkyrie just for that summon of Odin, just like you can with a good majority of the other different types of Nordic monsters that we run in the deck. With the last of the Nordic Ascendants being 2 Mimir of Nordic Ascendant. Once per turn at the start of your standby phase, if you control a face-up Nordic monster, you can send 1 spell from your hand to the graveyard to special summon this card from your graveyard. So if it's a card that you use for more of the cost for some of your other cards that you run, this is a big plus there to rely on as just another special summon onto the field. And being a level 2 monster, it's all the easier to summon back onto the field and adjust for any other synchro you may want to go for. And the fact that you can set it up in the graveyard with Vanadis, I would say, is your easiest play to go for. Not only will this make Vanadis a level 2, but then you can summon this card back on the field next turn for an easy summon and use for whatever extra deck play you want to go for. That's it for the Nordic Ascendant monsters. For the Nordic Alfar monsters, I am running 3 Alvis of the Nordic Alfar. I would say it's one of the best main deck monsters in total, mostly because it's one of the newest monsters we've received for this deck also. If this card is banished by the effect of a Nordic Link monster, you can see there's a lot of text here. You can send to the graveyard 1 Nordic monster you control and 2 Nordic monsters from your deck, whose total levels equal 10. Then special summon 1 Aesir monster from your extra deck. If an Aesir monster in your possession is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card, you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon 1 Aesir monster from your extra deck with a different name than this card in your graveyard. You can only use this effect of Alvis once per duel. So it's just more setup with this card. And being able to get up all the different Nordic monsters is a big plus with this one. And only if this card is banished by the effect of a Nordic Link monster. So with that, you have your Golveg of the Nordic Ascendant for that setup, because not only will you be able to use your Golveg for the setup of one of your synchro summons, you'll then be able to use Alvis for that additional summon, giving you more monsters on the field to then get out multiple Aesir monsters onto the field, and then using that additional monster when Alvis is in the graveyard for the summon of 1 more. So you can quickly go through all 3 of your Nordic gods on the field that much more easily. With the other Nordic Alfar monster I use being 3 Dverg of the Nordic Alfar. After you normal summon this card, you can normal summon 1 Nordic monster in your main phase also, in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only use this effect once per turn, and if this face-up card on the field is sent to the graveyard graveyard, target one Nordic relic card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. So this is more in here for the additional normal summon. I don't really run any of the Nordic relics. I wouldn't say they're the best cards. The most consistent plays are with your Nordic monsters. The Nordic relics add some plays you can do, but I would say they more fall under the individual decks themselves when you would make a Nordic Ascendant, Nordic Alfar, or Nordic Beast deck all together. So 3 of the Dverg just help for more Monster Swarm onto the field to give you additional extra deck plays, and being a level 1 gives you some other targets for other cards in the extra deck also. Especially since you're not really limited with a good amount of these different cards for the type of summons you go for. With the last of our Nordic Alfar monsters just being one Mara of the Nordic Alfar. When using this card as a synchro material, the other synchro materials must be 2 Nordic monsters from your hand. So with the numbers you go for, don't forget Alvis is a non-tuner. So if you have Alvis and just another monster in your hand to go for that, that could be all you need right there. Just summon Loki. And then not only will you set up your Alvis for the play from the banished by the effect of a Nordic Link monster, that gives you more setup in the graveyard for summoning it back onto the field. But also just another easy summon. I would say there's at least always that one tuner in the deck that's just made for summoning out that specific Nordic god, and Mara falls under that category. I only run the one though, because I would say Loki is the weakest of the 3 Nordic gods, but when you can summon out Mara and consistently have the right numbered monsters in your hand to use for the play, it definitely does come in handy. Now for the Nordic Beast monsters, I run 3 of the Tangrisnir of the Nordic Beasts. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you special summon 2 Nordic Beast tokens onto the field. They're level 3, so the main play with Tangrisnir is to use it with your other tuner monster, which is Goldfax for the Nordic Beast, giving you the 2 level 3s and your level 4 tuner in the form of Goldfax, for then summoning out your go-to monster, which is Thor, Lord of the Aesir. And another card that can just help to set up the different Nordic monsters is your Tangjoster of the Nordic Beasts. When a monster you control is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. And once per turn, when this defense position card on the field is changed to attack position, you can special summon 1 Nordic Beast monster from your deck in defense position except for Tangjoster. So this one is more to use in combo with the Nordic Beast Tangrisnir. When it's destroyed, you summon this, giving you the additional option of having a level 3 if your opponent were to destroy one of the tokens for Tangrisnir, but also set up your level 4 tuner on the field to go for next after that. And for that tuner, we're only running 2 Goldfax of the Nordic Beast. It's really all you need for that setup. If your opponent controls the face-up synchro monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Now, back when synchros were a bigger thing, I would run more of this card, but you mostly want to set it up with Tangjoster being the go-to special summon setup when switching it to attack position. Otherwise, there's really not much to go for this card other than the fact that it is a level 4 tuner. So with some of your other setup, or even just being the tuner target when you use Golovig on the field to summon them out for the right proper adjustments also. Now for more of the generic monsters in the deck, I run 3 Summoner Monk. This in our spell cards can just set up the 1 Nordic monster we need to link summon into Golovig of the Nordic Ascendant. So just for easy search power onto the field, it'll give you a resource to summon using your Summoner Monk, and then you can use that card to go for your main link play, having the other Nordic monsters just be in your hand for the cost of that card. With the last of the monsters that I run in the main deck are 2 Condemned Witch. Now this normal summon card is to add a Forbidden quick play from my deck to my hand. I run the Forbidden cards as more of a protection and way to prevent my opponent's own monsters from stopping my Nordic God monsters, and also protecting them, depending on the search I want to go for with my Condemned Witch. It gives me plenty of options, and the fact that I can special summon a level 4 fairy monster from my deck during my opponent's turn means I can set up a Vanadis on the field, being a fairy monster, for that target using Condemned Witch, if I need be, for that play. I don't summon it off as Summoner Monk. It has to be normal summon for the Forbidden Lance play, but still a great option to have on the field after summoning it for that Tribute of the Fairy and adding the Forbidden cards to hand. It's why I preferred the Summoner Monk and the Condemned Witch in the deck compared to the option of Hand Traps. It gave for more of a play to go for the actual Nordic gods and to protect them on the field. That is it for the monsters. When I move on to the spells, I run 2 Forbidden Chalice and 2 Forbidden Dress. You can run Forbidden Lance instead of Dress, but just more search targets, being more protection and ways for your Nordic gods to hit over some monsters, but also stop your opponent's own cards. It may lower the attack of that monster on the field thanks to Forbidden Dress, but it'll protect them, and your Nordic gods can have some pretty high attack, especially Odin, so losing that much attack with Forbidden Dress really won't stop it from hitting over a good majority of your opponent's different cards. For more special summoning and the fact that we get good token setup with our Nordic beasts, I run 2 Ayer's Rock Sunrise. Being all beast-type monsters, if they're even just set up in the graveyard, we can summon them back onto the field to use for any of our plays, even just being the non-tuner requirements for one of our go-to synchro plays. So 2 Ayer's Rock Sunrise definitely does come in handy for that setup. It's really just there for that special summoning option, and that also being able to lose 200 attack for each beast monster in our graveyard currently is just an added plus from that, for then our Nordic gods to hit over with an attack. And for some of my one-ofs in the deck, I also run the 1 Upstart Goblin. This is in here for also a potential Summoner Monk target when I have to discard for the cost 1 Heavy Storm. Harpy's Feather Duster for clearing my opponent's back row. Now this, you want to make sure your Nordic god summon goes successfully. It's your main go-to play in the deck. So clearing out back row is a big thing. So Heavy's, I was about to say it again, Harpy's Feather Duster, geez, is a big plus there. Just like stopping hand traps with Call by the Grave. And once again, just like Ayer's Rock Sunrise, Monster Reborn, giving you resources back onto the field to use. But sadly, I run the 2 Ayer's Rock because Monster Reborn is at 1. With the spells finished, we're moving on now to the traps. The only trap I run in the deck is Gleipnir, the Fetters of Fenrir. You add 1 Nordic monster from your deck to your hand. Now, whatever you need for the play, this card comes in handy. It's not a once per turn, so if you open up multiples of this card, you can set this card up on the field for searching out. If your opponent targets this card for destruction, you can chain in response. They'll destroy the card, but you'll still get your search. So it's just a good way for a back row setup. It's really one of the only Nordic spell or traps that I like running in the deck. The other ones, like I said, just don't provide enough playstyle for each individual deck like this card does, just being downright search for any of the different Nordic monsters you run. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. Being the strongest of the Aesir monsters, I am running 2 Odin, Father of the Aesir. Once per turn, you can make this card be unaffected by spell and trap effects until the end of this turn. And once per turn, during the end phase of this face-up card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard this turn, you can banish 1 Nordic Ascendant tuner from your graveyard to special summon this card. And when summoned this way, you draw 1 card. So not only can you make Odin be unaffected by cards on the field, it's very easy to summon out with our Link monster, which we'll get to in just a bit. The draw power gives you more for your other invested plays, and just the 4,000 attack monster that it is a powerhouse that can even match other Egyptian gods like Obelisk the Tormentor in terms of attack and power. For the other Nordic monsters, I run 1 Thor. If you want to increase your number of the Nordic monsters, you can always change up the other synchros that I run in the deck, or even remove some of the Link monsters. But 1 Thor, more of the fact that it's the second strongest. Once per turn, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. And once per turn during the end phase, you can banish a Nordic Beast Tuner to special summon this card. And when it's special summon this way, you inflict 800 damage to your opponent. So the burn damage is cool, but it's more just another card to get out with the Nordic Beast monsters, just like Loki is used for the Aesir monsters. The quick effect to negate the activation of a card during your opponent's battle phase. And if this face-up card is destroyed during the end phase, you can banish 1 Nordic Alfar monster in the graveyard to special summon this card. And when you do that, you target 1 trap in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So Loki in this deck's only real purpose is to add back Gleipnir to your hand to reuse. And once again, while I'm only running 1 of this and 1 Thor, it's more specific. Odin gives you draw power, and this just comes in terms of when you can summon it back into the field using its own monster effect, but still pretty useful when you do. For the other synchro monsters, I run 1 Ascension Sky Dragon along with 1 Leo Keeper of the Sacred Tree and 1 Star Eater, 2 additional level 10s and 1 level 11. If you wanted to run additional numbers of Loki and also Thor, you can take out the Ascension Sky Dragon and the Leo just to add in additional numbers of that. I like having the level 11 Star Eater as just an option to go in if I have a higher number of monsters on the field to go into the synchro play that just don't match up with the level 10 play. Now, for our Link monsters, I'm running 3 of the most important card in the deck, which is Gullveig of the Nordic Ascendant. You need 1 level 5 or lower Nordic monster to make this card. Once again, just like Alvis, it's a wall of text. If this card is Link Summon, you can banish up to 3 cards from your hand and or field. If you do special summon that many Nordic monsters from your deck in defense position. Also, for the rest of this turn, you can special summon monsters except for Aesir monsters, nor normal or set any other monsters. You can only use this effect of Gullveig, the Nordic Ascendant, once per turn. And while this card points to an Aesir monster, your opponent cannot target that monster with card effects, and also your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. So this is just meant to be your go-to card. If you have 1 Nordic monster in your hand, you use this card as that additional setup for banishing cards from your hand or field. And not only if you banish Alvis for this card's banish, you'll get the additional setup with Alvis being able to, when it's banished, send to the graveyard one Nordic monster you control and new Nordics from your deck, whose total level equal the Azir monsters. So not only will that not restrict you, since with your Gullvig, it says you can only summon the monsters that are Azir monsters, it just gives you more of that setup to send to some of those monsters out onto the field. With our other Link monsters being one Link Karibo, one Lena the Light Charmer, one Nightmare Cerberus, one Nightmare Unicorn, and one Borolo Dragon for the rest of the extra deck monsters. If you wanted to move around some of your numbers for Thor and Loki and add additional copies, you can take out some of these cards. I don't go into the Link monsters as often. It's just good to have that option available in the extra deck. As for the go-to plays, like I said, one of the easiest plays to use in the deck is just to summon out one of your Nordic monsters and then go for the Link summon of your Gullvig, the Nordic Ascendant. With this card Link summoning, banish up to 3 cards from your hand or field. If you by chance then banish the Alvis, like I said, as one of the 3 cards, it just has to be 3 cards. So it could be any cards you banish for this card for the requirement for the play, meaning that if this Link summon, banishing 3 cards from your hand, special summoning that many Nordic monsters from your deck in defense position. So then you go for the proper cards needed for summoning out your Nordic monsters, meaning you have the setup to go into any of the Nordic gods just by getting those required different Nordic monsters we run. For Loki being this setup, for your Odin being the option of summoning out non-tuners, you can use the same setup for the Nordic beasts and then just have one of the Nordic Ascendant monsters, since the requirement for those synchro monsters are just having the 2 non-tuner monsters on the field. And the same will apply for Loki as well, depending on the numbers you have and set up on the field for that play. They'll be in defense position, don't forget, but once you summon out that synchro monster, then you can use it for that play with your Gullvig, protecting Gullvig, and also your Nordic monster on the field. But with Alvis and its banish effect, when it's banished by a Nordic Link monster, which it is, you can send one Nordic monster you control and one Nordic monster from your deck whose total levels equal 10. So to use this Alvis, you have to have that additional setup already on the field, but still, it's good when you have that additional numbers on the field to use for the additional summon of a Nordic monster onto the field of a different name, and then using the banish option for that one additional card. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun messing around with the Nordics. Forgot how much of an interesting deck this was. Maybe one day we'll see more support for it, including maybe additional extra deck monsters, just meant to fully utilize all the different cards we have for all of these different decks, especially. But like I said, the most fun is when they're brought together, that's for sure. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig, out.